Yeah, this is it.
This is it?
And this is it. And here we go.
Have you started?
Yeah, I just turned it on.
Oh, it already started?
Yeah, usually
Okay.
I start them like we're in conversation, and then I just started, and most people are like, "Oh, I didn't know we started." Like I had my friend Owen on the other day. I don't know if you met him, and we were like 30 minutes in. He's like, "Oh, I didn't realize you started yet. I thought we were still just talking," because that's how it is. It's normal and plain. But before I told you to save it, we were talking about the forum.
Yes.
So can you explain, because people thought it was a cult, right, when it first started?
Yes.
So can you explain what it is? Because people ask me, like, what did you go to? I'm like, I don't know.
It's very hard to explain
Mm-hmm.
because it's a personal experience.
Yeah.
And I started back in the 70s, which back then it wasn't a good thing.
Yeah. How old were you then, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, let's see.
In the
I'm
range.
80, what was I, 50?
Okay.
Maybe 55, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And friends of mine, very, very good friends of ours, had gone.
Okay.
And I trusted her. And she said she had gone to this course. And it was really, really good. So being the trusting person that I am, I said, okay, I'll go with you to a guest event. So we went into New York and went to this guest event. And I didn't even know what I wanted, but I saw this woman and she spoke. And I just felt that there was just something there that I wanted. And I couldn't even explain what it was. So I ran up at the break. I ran up and I signed up. And, you know, I was all happy and everything that I had signed up to do this course. That was a very controversial course.
Yeah, it was about bettering yourself, right? Or
Yeah, it was like cult. They called it a cult. And it was very, very strict back then.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was fine until I got in the car to come home. And then I realized what I had done. And then I thought to myself, uh-oh, now how am I going to tell my husband, my conservative husband, who's the doubting Thomas?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had to do that. But you had asked me what it was. And it's a personal experience. I think that what happens in our life, you know, we start out as a little boy or a little girl and everything's happy, but maybe not, because you come out and you get slapped.
Yeah.
And that's welcome to life. And it's like,
It's your
oh
first
my
trauma.
God, that's your first, right?
Yeah.
That's your first indication. Bright lights and whatever.
Out of the warm womb.
No.
You know, the safe spot.
That's right.
It is, because I think I talk about this a lot. It's just our childhoods. We can't control it. And a lot happens to us in those times. And then we put up barriers, or we act in certain ways or react in certain ways that may have helped us survive as a child. And then we just keep it throughout our past. And this course was helpful for me because it helped me look back at my history. You know, I had to learn my history to understand why I'm the way I am and how I act. So it was really helpful in that, because it was a 4-day course, right? It was Thursday,
Yes.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, now it's much shorter. Before it was 2 weekends.
It's shorter now?
It was longer. We used to go till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
something like that. But what I see the difference now is people are much more aware.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of the different things out there that people do for their own benefit, for business and for spiritual things. And so therefore, people, I think, are more aware. Back then, you know, you needed those 4 days
Yeah.
in the long hours, because it was like people were just so engrossed in what they were doing. that it was,
It's foreign. It seems
yeah,
like.
we just didn't understand.
Yeah.
When we went into the room, we had to leave our watches,
Mm.
so you weren't aware of the time or anything. And it wasn't like you had to say anything if you didn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a piece of us in everyone if you listen.
Mm.
And you can apply it to your own life. And you say, well, I do that,
Yeah.
or I'm like that, or yeah, I can relate to that. So that's basically what it is. And I think for me, it just really helped me deal with whatever I had to deal with my children or my husband and life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is helpful. And I think especially back then in the day,
In the 70s.
in the 70s, I think mental health has come a long way. I was just talking with my friend Kevin about this yesterday, that back our parents' generation, or even your generations, we have to survive. We're here to work, supply for our family, and the mental health stuff, it's just grow up
Right.
or figure it out. Like, you don't talk about it as much. And then you pass that down to your kids, and then our generation, we don't have to just survive anymore. Like, we have time to think. And we're like, what is going on in here? And you see it in like us. We're finding this at a younger age and trying to deal with our mental health. And it's becoming a bigger topic, which I think is good.
Oh, I think it's good too. Yeah, I think that, back then, I think, especially when I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
For women, it was, it was just a different generation.
Yeah.
And we were at home with our kids, and most of the women were at home if they could afford to be.
Mm-hmm.
But, now, I mean, I just look at like my granddaughters, and there's so much more out there. And they give themselves more permission to be out there,
Yeah.
which I think is great. It's just one of the blessings that I have is watching my own grandchildren evolve.
Yeah.
And they're all so different. And as far as you, James, I always knew that there was some kind of a deeper connection.
Mm.
And I've always appreciated that.
Thank you. So how was your childhood growing up?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough, yes. Back then, nobody talked about alcoholism or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was an alcoholic. So it was not that he drank all the time, he didn't. But when he did, it was a problem.
Mm.
And I remember, unfortunately or fortunately, they owned a bar and a liquor store.
Not yet.
So I remember on nights, like the weekend nights, I would be alone with my dog, Mister.
Mister?
Mister. His name was Mister.
What kind of dog was it?
I know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
He would be out in the street or something. I'd be calling Mister, and these men would be turning around looking at her. She called me.
He's calling me? He's
My
talking to
dog.
me? Oh, that's my dog, sorry.
I know.
So how old were you around this time?
Probably about 8.
8? That's young.
8 or 10, maybe 10. But it was hard because I was always on edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if my father came home, drunk with my mother, that there'd be fighting.
Yeah.
And, and I think my mother used me as, how should I say it? I was like the buffer.
Mm.
And, she tried to get him to stop drinking if he loved me.
Yeah.
Well, I knew he loved me.
Yeah.
But it was just back then.
It's a disease.
So that, for me, that's why I don't really drink.
Mm.
I have occasional glass of wine, but I don't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
It just left a very bad taste in my mouth.
That is hard. How did it affect you growing up? Like, you had siblings, right? Or did you not at this time?
Say that again?
Did you have siblings?
I had a stepsister, or half-sister that was 10 years older, but she wasn't around.
Yeah.
You know, I was 9 and she was married. So I was by myself, and it was difficult, very difficult, because I thought that I would have to do something to make it better, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So when it came for me to go to college, when I graduated high school, I wanted to go to college, and my mother didn't want me to go away. You know, she wanted to keep me home. So I did go to college for 2 years as a commuter, but it wasn't experiencing the college life.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I did. But I didn't realize at the time that, you know, that I was her buffer.
Yeah.
You know, because he would only listen to me. I mean, I remember, it's a funny story now. It wasn't so funny then. But I was pregnant with your father. And I was due, this was July 4th, and I was due. You know, I was like 9 months and ready to go. And my father got himself involved in a card game.
Oh, jeez.
And he was at, you know, somebody's house, and they were playing for money, you know, big money, I guess. And so my mother said to me, go get your father's keys, because, you know, we don't want him to drive.
Yeah.
So here I was,
Pregnant.
9 months,
On the 4th.
pregnant like this.
Yeah.
And Pop drove me there, but wouldn't come in.
Oh, jeez.
So I go waddling in.
Yeah.
And asking for his keys. And he's, you know, come on, sit down. Here's my daughter, and blah, 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 and on and on. But I did get his keys.
Yeah.
And then we left, and your father was born the next day. I can laugh now. At the time, it wasn't so funny.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't so funny. But it broke my heart that he drank like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then he did crazy stuff. He was in the bar one night, and I guess there was a pilot there, and he had his license, and he had a plane or whatever, and they were all drunk, and they ended up flying to Georgia.
Oh, jeez.
And he called my mother when he, you know, because back then no cell phones, so no communication. He didn't let her know that he was going, and just the two of them were running this business. Calls my mother from Georgia and said to my mother, she said, where are you? You know, she was furious.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm in Georgia. And she said, what are you doing in Georgia? I came down to get you pecans. He said. And with that, she said, I hope the plane crashes.
Oh, jeez.
So he had to get drunk again to get back on the plane to come back.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot. How did that make you feel as a kid?
I'm sorry?
How did that make you feel as a kid?
Helpless.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted it better. And it made me realize what I wanted in a family. And this wasn't it.
Yeah.
You know, because I was alone. I grew up alone. I wanted a lot of kids. I wanted to make my kids feel welcome, you know, because I could never have my kids or my friends over after school because my father was always working.
Yeah.
And he would come home in the afternoon and go to sleep. You know, and I would come home from school and I had to be quiet. So I could never have friends over. So I decided then, you know, that I was going to have a different kind of a life.
Yeah. So how did you work through that? Did the whole forum help you understand your past more? Yes.
I think that I was able to understand more of what was the dynamics. And the forum also helped me deal with what I was dealing with my own family in life.
Yeah.
You know, just they were, your father was 12, almost 13, I think. Aunt Leanne was a little bit older, and Uncle Jimmy was 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made such a big, it brought a calm over me that was never there before. I guess that's what it was. And of course, I came home all gung-ho. And then you could invite your family to come.
Yeah.
So, of course, Pop-Pop came. And in those days, people would run in with balloons and clap and everything else and be really happy. And that happened. And Pop-Pop was just sitting there, angry. And I was like, oh my gosh. And my friend Lee, who got us involved in this, said, and you've got to go home with him.
Oh, how was that ride home?
It was tough. It was really tough because he was not at all open. You know, he thought that I was brainwashed. And he really started watching my behavior, you know, because he thought this cult came, and I think he was probably concerned I was going to go fly away somewhere.
Yeah. Did you open up his mind, or did he do that on his own?
Well, I think that watching me and just a certain calm came over me that was never there before. I was anxious and I was, you know, more stressed. And after, you know, a calm just came over me that was never there before. And he saw that. He used to come before that time because we were leading, you know, we were trying to get guest seminars in New Jersey.
Yeah.
It was only New York at the time. So he would come and make fun of everybody because everybody was always happy and laughing and everything. And he and our friend Shelley used to come in the back of the room, and Pop-Up didn't need much motivation from Shelley, but they would laugh at all of us and look at them and whatever. But then, you know, he did sign up, and he did it as well.
Yeah, because I think you need to be open to it. If you go in with a closed mind, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yes.
But that's for anything, too.
That's right.
You can go to school and be like, I'm not learning, and you won't. Or you could be open to it. No one will change until they want to change or shift. What do they say they don't want to, we're not changing you, we're just fixing your perspective or something. They said it at the forum. But did you have to, with this calmness, did it stay with you, or did you have to work on it to keep it?
Well, I think you have to work on everything that you want to keep, like an exercise.
True.
So I have participated. I used to lead guest seminars because I felt that it really made a huge difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't do that anymore. But still, every once in a while, I'll do a course or do something. For the most part, it does stick with you. But I think that there's always, as old as I am, there's always more to get.
Yeah. And
I just find that fascinating. And to watch, I think for me now, when one of my family does it and I go to the graduations or something, to hear people to what they've gotten, that they've been carrying around with for so many years, to let go in a weekend is just inspiring.
It is. So how would you keep working on it other than going to the forum? Like, how do you, because it's easy to say, it's like, oh, I feel calm, and you just work on it, but no one really tells you what to do. Because for exercising, it's easy. You know, you just lift things or run. But there's no one teaching how to keep your mind healthy.
Yeah, you're right. There isn't.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to be aware of yourself and aware of your feelings. You know, if you're not, then...
So you think that just awareness of it helps?
I think there's an awareness. I think that listening is huge. Huge. And just the ability to be with somebody and be comfortable with that. That to me has been the greatest gift, because I feel I can talk to anyone. And
Yeah, you're good at it. I was telling you before, that's where I learned how to do this stuff.
yeah.
Because you're like, if you don't know what to say, I don't know what brought it up. But you're like, just ask someone a question, and they love talking about themselves.
Yes. Yes.
But it's nice. You also worked with, I forgot what it was called, but you sat with sick people, right? Or mentally.
Oh, in our church?
Yeah.
I'm a Stephen minister.
Okay, so what does that entail?
The Stephen ministers walk alongside people. So I've had hours and hours of training where either going through a divorce or going through sickness, I just walk alongside. And it's basically just asking them questions and to find out if they have any regrets, or if they've got problems that they want to handle. And I'm just like a sounding board. So I met my care receivers I've had, and it's woman to woman. But I still we meet on Zoom.
Oh yeah, you still doing it?
I still do it.
That's
yes.
nice.
And I've had wonderful experiences, some tough, with my care receivers. And I'll tell you one story. Oh my goodness. I mean, as you know, I lose track of time.
Yeah.
So I get involved. I think it was my first care receiver. We were living in the Poconos because that's where I was trained. And I met with this woman, and she was a nurse. Her husband was a doctor. He had Alzheimer's.
Oh, jeez.
And so she was dealing with that, and she wanted a Stephen minister. So you have to give a generic report to your leader. So I come back, and at our meeting I gave my report, and you have to write down how long you were there. And we were supposed to stay like no more than an hour. And I was there like an hour and a half. And they were watching me, right? So we meet once a week. And so we met the next week, and then it got to be an hour and 3/4. And I went back, and my leader said to me, Pat, you can't stay more than an hour. And I was like, oh, why don't you tell her?
Yeah. Wait, why can't you stay more than an hour? I don't get
Because it just gets too involved. And I said, oh, I have to do this. Because for me, saying something like that or doing something like that and making parameters is very hard for me. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Anyone.
That's right. So I figured, well, I better do this right away. So I did. I said to her, I said, our meetings have been longer, and my team, and I can only be here, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, fine. So we start our conversation, and she gets deep into her feelings, because that's what I was looking for. And all of a sudden, she looks at her clock, and she goes, time's up.
Oh.
And I was like, this knife went in my heart.
Yeah.
And I said to her, well, we can finish. No, time's up. But this woman did not have a good relationship with anyone. As I worked with her, her son wanted nothing to do with her, and she had problems.
Yeah.
So I could see, how. So I go back and I tell my leader what happened, and she said, you've got to tell her how you felt. And I thought, oh, how can I do that? How can I do that? But I have to follow the instructions.
Yeah.
So I did it. And I said to her, Fran, I said, when we were having our conversation and you were into to this deep conversation and communication. And then you told me time's up. I said, I felt terrible. I said, and she said, well, I thought you didn't care. And I said, I do care. But I said, we have to limit our conversation. So that was one instance.
How did that change after you told her?
It was much better. And we limited it to an hour. And I was more focused on some of the questions that I wanted to ask her regarding her relationship. But I have another story, if you want to hear it right now.
I would love to.
Okay. So
I wanted to make sure.
another one in the Poconos.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everything was going.
Okay. Another one in the Poconos. And this woman was an artist.
This looks weird.
We okay?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I hope so.
So another woman that's an artist. This woman was an artist. And she was very vivacious and very smart. And just like you, she'd walk in the room and you would know that she was there. And everything that her art, she would never give anything away. Only she would sell it. So I get, they match you up as best. I get her. And the reason that I got her was her husband also had Alzheimer's, and she was having a problem dealing with it.
Yeah.
And the future of that. And so I go to her, and I guess it was the second time that I had met with her. And I said, well, how are you? And she said, if I had a gun, I'd shoot myself.
Jeez.
And I was like, oh my gosh, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So I made sure that I got through the time, went back to my leader. Actually, it was my prayer partner, and I said to her, this is what happened at our meeting today. She said, well, you better call the leader right away. So then we had a crisis meeting. And the crisis meeting, they came out and they said, this woman needed professional counseling.
Yeah.
And I was not a professional. Here I am, a volunteer, and I'm trained, but not to handle anything like this. So anyway, so they tell me that she needs professional counseling or else I can't work with her. So I said to my leader, Peggy, you're going to tell her, right? And she said, no, you're going to tell her. I'm like, oh, here we go again. So I had to go see her. And I said, I can't work with you unless you get professional counseling. She said, I don't need professional counseling. I'm one course away from my master's degree or my doctorate. She said, I don't need that. You're not going to do that. She said, I don't need that. And I said to her, that's the criteria. And she said to me, why? And I said, because you said that. She said, well, you don't know me. I say things and I don't mean them. And I said, I can't. She said, well, you don't care. I said, I do care.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So she said, well, I'm not going to go unless they are a woman and they take Medicare and they're Christ-oriented. So what I did then, I asked my leader if I could investigate and create a list. And they said, yes, I could do that. So I did. And I gave her 3 names. First one she didn't like, but the second one she did like. And then she used to tell me that I was better than the counselor. And when I left the Poconos, I left her, because I wasn't going to work with her anymore. And she gave me that painting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one, yes.
The top?
Yes.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yes. And she said to me when she knew I was leaving, she said, I want you to go downstairs. Her gallery was downstairs. She painted on site. That was taken. That was in the Poconos somewhere,
That's beautiful.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So she said, "Pick anything you want. I'll frame it for you, and this will be my gift."
That must have meant a lot.
It did. And then, but Uncle Timmy then,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you another story that wasn't so funny at the time.
Wait, before you do this, I want to make sure this audio is good because
Okay.
I'm kind of nervous about it. Yes, now we're good. Yeah, I was nervous because the wavelengths looked small. I'm like, I'm not. This has happened to me, where I recorded and the audio came out bad. I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Like, I can't. I'm not using the camera audio, but it sounds good. So, Uncle Timmy. What was
Yeah,
it?
so we were moving from the Poconos here,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very upset. I get very attached, and I was upset leaving our church. I was upset leaving our Stephen ministry group, but I knew that we needed to be back in New Jersey. So Uncle Timmy and Aunt Leanne were up one day, and they were helping, okay? And I was going through my Stephen ministry things, and I'm crying. And I said, and my Stephen and my care receiver painted me this, and I open up this painting, and Uncle Timmy looked at me and looked at the painting and said, "Mom, let's face it, this is something we're not going to fight over."
Really?
Really? And I was like, I don't think that's funny.
Yeah. Oh my. So from the Stephen ministry, it kind of sounds like communication
Yes.
really was huge. And did they just not have anyone else that they could talk to, these people? Or what do you think?
Well, I think that it's very difficult for people to come forward. Even now with the pandemic, a lot of ours, like I don't have a care receiver right now. My care receiver has passed away. I was with her for, I'm trying to think, a year and a half,
Wow.
2 years. And she gave me she embroidered something for
really?
me.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, but people, I don't know whether they're just embarrassed
Mm-hmm.
or uncomfortable in just saying, I'd like somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to solve their problem,
Mm-hmm.
but just walk alongside them.
It's nice. It's support.
Only God can do that.
Yeah.
So it's,
That's nice. So when people were kept saying, because it seems like a common theme that everyone was like, you don't care. How do you even cope with that? Why do you think they're saying that? Because obviously you do care if you're there.
well, I think people like to have it their way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, especially the two that I had, which I never thought of myself as a aggressive
Yeah, no,
woman. I may
think
be
you're
assertive,
yeah.
but I'm not aggressive and I'm not pushy. But, it just, people get uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
in talking about real things. They can talk about politics or something
Yeah.
like that, or the weather, or their kids, or whatever. But getting down to the nitty-gritty, it's very hard for people to communicate, especially if there's problems within a family.
Mm.
And, I've dealt with that,
Yeah.
with, helping people, getting them on the right road, or,
Yeah. How do you help someone get on the right path?
well, it just depends where they're going.
Because sometimes they don't want to
Yes.
get on the path.
No. And that's, it's up to them.
Mm.
But I think eventually, there's some kind of an analogy that we used to use as far as the forum was concerned, and they would say that there was cheese. Do you remember that?
I don't.
There was cheese at the end of the tunnel,
Mhm.
somewhere in the maze, and the mouse would run up the maze and no cheese. Run up the mouse, no cheese. And sooner or later, the mouse would stop and realize there was no cheese, where a human would keep on going, think there's cheese when there was no cheese.
Yeah.
So I think that, you've got to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially as I've gotten older, in just dealing with life and dealing with different handicaps, if you don't accept them, your life is over.
Yeah. Acceptance seems like a big part of it.
It is. It is. But, I just see my grandchildren, and it's just such a blessing to watch them just grow and get into whatever they're doing.
Yeah. That is a cool thing. But so how did you, before I get into the acceptance, I'll go into the acceptance. So for the acceptance, I'm debating where I want to go because there's two paths I could take. But when you had, what was the first one when you were in rehab? Was that your heart or?
Oh, you mean with my different illnesses?
Yeah.
Here we go. It was, no.
Your hip?
First one was shoulder surgery.
Yeah. How was that? Because I remember you were in a lot of pain.
It was tough. It was really tough. And I worked hard. And, I was in rehab, actually, when my other shoulder started. Oh. And it took me 3 years to go for the second one. Yeah. But I was determined I was going to get better, so I did. And after that, I had cancer.
Oh, geez.
And, I was very, very fortunate because it was contained.
What kind was it?
It was uterine. So I had a hysterectomy, and I was very blessed with that. And then, what was it after that? Oh, last time I had an infection and didn't know I had it, and it went to my brain.
That's scary.
That was scary. That was really scary because the others, I knew what was going on. With the last one, it was, I wasn't aware. Yeah. And I really don't know what happened. But I've read some of the reports, and it's really scary.
Yeah. That must have opened your eyes to something. Did that show you anything?
Say that again? Like,
that seems like a scary event. Did you learn anything from that about yourself or time?
I think what I learned was you really have to pay attention to your body. Not that I didn't, because I'm...
Yeah, you're very healthy. Like, you guys, you and Pop, very...
We go to physical therapy, I go to Pilates.
Take your vitamins.
I go to seminars.
Yeah.
I go to the doctor. So we are very aware. This was just a freak thing that happened. And I ended up in a ward that nobody should end up in.
Yeah.
But I learned something there, too. I didn't like being there. But I guess I needed to be there at the time.
Yeah.
Because I was under heavy drugs, and now I'm off them.
That's good.
So I'm very excited about that.
Not drugged up anymore.
Yeah.
That's good. But it is something that comes with time. Like, I worry about this a lot myself, because I'm like we were saying before, we started, I'm active, to say the least. I like to travel. I like to do things. And I know eventually my body won't allow me to. So that's something I struggle with, because I can't imagine being so fragile, like I can't leave my house. And it's scary, and I try to just push it off. But it is a reality that everyone has to face at a certain point.
Maybe, maybe not. You don't know that.
Fair. So how would you recommend Like, what do you think?
Just leave it one day at a time.
Fair.
Really?
I guess I said it yesterday. Worrying is a debt you don't have to pay.
Oh.
Mark Twain said that.
Ah.
It's true.
Unbelievable.
Mm.
You know, I'm a worrier naturally.
Yeah.
You know, nobody has to worry. They can give it to me and I'll take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I worry, I know that I'm not turning it over to God.
Mm.
And so that I try to keep that my focus. And
so you put your faith in God that the path is set.
God has always taken care of me. Always. I mean, you know, I just look back in my life and just different instances, you know, that could have really ended up a different way.
Mm-hmm.
God has just always been there.
Yeah, so why would he stop now?
That's right.
You know?
You know, and sometimes you know, I don't like it, you know, and I question why.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you find out why.
Yeah.
And you find the reason. But, you know, everything isn't, as we were talking before, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a perfect world. And I think that in my generation especially, we were trying to be perfect.
Mm.
Everything was just, you know, the white gloves and the hat.
Yeah.
Everything going, you know, you had to be married, have kids.
In a certain order,
A
a certain way.
order, yeah. Whereas now I see that the kids are different.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I agree with all this texting, you know, because I'm more of a people person.
I'm with you. I hate texting people, and I'd much rather have a conversation in person.
Yeah, and being with somebody and they're texting, you feel like you're not even there.
Exactly.
You
They're
know,
in their own little world.
What is this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And some people are addicted.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's why it scares me, too. They just came out. Facebook was talking about how they're working on an augmented reality where you can go into it and hang out with people.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Hopefully they said they were working on it, so I don't know when it's supposed to come out or anything, but it's supposed to be like
what would that mean?
It's just, I don't know, the wording in their release was so ridiculous. It was like a new medium of social media or something like that. And it would just be like a virtual reality where you could go in, create a character, or maybe you'll look like yourself, I don't know. And then you're just in the computer. It's like the Matrix.
Oh, my gosh.
Which is weird. So I don't know how that's going to affect everything. Probably greatly.
Wow.
But we have some time. That's in the future, day by day.
Well, you know what the thing that I think that I did want to mention that concerns me, I think especially for girls.
Mm-hmm.
They have to look and see how many likes.
Yeah.
And the posing and everything else. I mean,
it's for validation. But it comes with age where you find the self-respect and self-love you need. But as a kid, you don't know that. And you're trying to look. You see all this stuff online. And it's like, oh, I need to be like this. They're all so happy. Like, why can't I be like that? And then we start comparing, and it's not good for us, especially these young kids. Everyone's on it now. But until you can find, like, self-happiness, you're not going to be posting that if you're already happy. That's my little take on it.
Yeah, I agree. Because happiness is within.
Yeah.
You know, you can't go out there to find happiness. You have to go within.
Yeah. How did you find happiness within yourself? Like, that must have been over many years, right? It's not like an instant thing.
Yeah, I think that I've always been, I guess, in my life, I've always been lucky or validated somehow. Because I didn't go to college, I wanted to go away from home. Mm-hmm. And so Eastern Airlines, you know, I decided, I want to be a stewardess. And in those days, it was very, very strict.
Yeah.
Very strict. You couldn't be married and fly.
It's so weird.
You had to be a certain
It's so
weight.
weird.
At that time, I was that certain
Yeah.
weight. Your hair couldn't touch the collar. It was like very
Yeah.
strict. And it was sort of like a game for me. Oh, I'll just see if I can get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And then once I got in, my supervisor liked me. So I used to go out on all these PR. In those days, what your advertising were you.
Mm.
We used to go to trade shows and give out luggage tags. I went to schools and gave career conferences, because it was the look back then.
Yeah.
And it was a status job, glorified waitress.
Really?
Oh, I worked so hard. My first, no, maybe not my very first, but one of the early times in my flying,
Mm-hmm.
I flew, you wouldn't even know what this was, a Martin, which was a 2-engine prop. It wasn't
Okay.
even a jet.
Yeah.
No.
So you were on prop
so-
planes? That's what you were flying? They weren't like jet airliners?
That's what I was
Oh my
flying.
God.
Here I was.
Yeah.
And there was only me as the stewardess serving, and the captain and the pilot and the engineer. So I had to serve meals like from here to, I don't even remember our first stop, maybe Buffalo.
Mm.
I was going on, north.
Yeah.
And I'd make these like little stops, and I had to serve meals. Well, one of them, the engineer was helping me put the trays away. I couldn't even get the trays away. And I came home, and I remember taking off my shoes. My feet hurt, thinking, what is this? I'm a glorified waitress.
Yeah. So would you get to stay in the places you flew to, or would you fly back that same?
No, because I couldn't. I didn't have enough seniority
Mm-hmm.
to fly to great places.
Okay.
Eastern was only on the eastern coast, the East Coast, and I got married.
Mm-hmm.
So once we were married, I was grounded.
Yeah.
I was fired. But before then, when I told my supervisor that I was going to get married, she said I was blowing my career. That I was on a path. I don't know what path.
Yeah.
But I was on a path. I said, I'm in love. I want to get married.
Yeah. So I love the story of you and Pop-Up. So how did you guys meet again? Like what?
Oh, you want the long version or the short version?
We got time. Give me the long version.
I had been accepted in the airlines, and I knew I was going, but Eastern was on strike at the time.
Okay.
And I had a little MG. My father had bought me this little MG,
Like a car?
car,
Okay.
little MGA.
I don't know what that is.
So anyway, I used to get my car serviced in Florida because my parents had a cottage, like a cabin in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to get my car serviced where Pop-Pop worked. And Pop-Pop had graduated college and I guess he had worked for, well, you can ask him his part of the story, but he was down there selling sports cars. And he was trying to sell me an Austin Healey.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked to me for hours trying to sell. And I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
I looked like I had money, but I didn't have any money. And that's how we met.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I knew, just like, I never felt like that before.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I was younger, the best part of the relationship was like the chase.
Yeah. Nana. Okay.
Not, I don't mean that.
Yes.
You know what I'm
I know
saying.
what you're saying.
But I mean, once I just didn't want to go steady, and
Yeah.
I didn't have any long
Mhm.
relationships. But anyway, and that's how we met. And after that, it was a bizarre story, but I'll let Pop tell you that part because that's crazy.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that it happened, and I can't believe that we've been married now 61 years, and we barely knew each other.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he, from a Midwest town, you know, a totally different background, totally different. And me, you know, where I was from and what I was doing, and it just worked.
Yeah. How did it last so long? Because there had to be bumps.
We work on it.
Mm-hmm.
We work on it. I think, you know, while the pandemic hit, I said to him about 3 months into it, I said, you know, we've been married 60 years. You think we're going to make it to 61?
Yeah.
But you have to work on it.
Yeah, because you guys are changing, you know, from when you guys met to now. I'm assuming you guys changed a lot as people.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah.
So how do you, the person that you fell in love with, is it a different person at the end? Or do you change together?
Well, I think I still see him visually as that person. I don't see him, you know, older or whatever. I still see him as that person. But I think we've both grown. And I think that the forum definitely has helped our marriage, you know, in communication. And I think accepting another person the way they are, not trying to change them.
Yeah.
I'm the communicator. You know, Pop would put it under the rug if he could. So, but you have to learn how to give and take.
Yeah. So what gave you the idea for the meetings, the family meetings?
Oh,
was that from the forum too?
Yes.
Okay.
That was from the forum. Yeah, when our kids were young, everybody had done courses. So I did this course called Parent and Child. Actually, it was with Uncle Timmy, with him. And one of the things that came up in that course was the concept of a family meeting. And the family meeting, the purpose was that one person start and communicate if they're pissed off or they're angry at something that somebody has done, and then you go around in the circle. And the thing was, you could not, if you was a person that this, you know, you were angry with, you couldn't retaliate, but you could communicate what was going on with you. And we would go around the circle and keep on going around the circle until it was all cleaned up. And the bottom line was, I love you.
Yeah.
You know, but just clearing up, you did this, you took that, or you...
So even if, say, the issue was between my dad and Aunt Leanne, Uncle Timmy would have a chance to talk too? Or... So how would that work? What would you guys
Uncle
say?
Timmy said what he said.
Okay.
You know, in the meeting. He was 8 or 9. And, you know, he and your dad shared a room together. So there was, you know.
Yeah, definitely a lot of that.
Right. Or you wouldn't take me, or you punched me, or
How often would you do it?
What's that?
How often would you have the meetings?
Not a lot, but it wasn't like a schedule, but I've got a great sense. I can sense things, and when things got like everybody was picking at each other, you know, I figured that was the time to do it, and nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody.
It's
I used
hard.
to turn off the phone, you know, like disconnect the phone, take it off the hook, and say, we're having a meeting now. Oh, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's hard to put how you feel out there because it makes you feel vulnerable. And I don't think anyone really likes feeling vulnerable like that. But I guess it worked out. You guys are still getting lunch together like every week, so had to do something, right?
Well, they didn't use the family meetings in their in there.
Yeah, they didn't.
No,
No, I guess they didn't want.
no, they didn't want to.
Yeah,
That's right. But it did. It cleared up the air.
that's nice.
Yeah. And I always believed that I wanted my kids to be able to say anything they wanted to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would try to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would agree with them, but I would try to understand their feelings.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to approach it. But how did you deal with my dad
When?
in the troubles when he was wild?
It was hard.
When he was Wild Willie.
Yeah, it was hard. He was very much like my father.
Mm-hmm.
He had his athletic ability. My father was an excellent athlete, champion swimmer, ice skater.
Yeah, was he in the Olympics for ice skating?
Yeah, well, he could have been in the Olympics, but he was being paid, and he was disqualified.
That's so stupid. Because now everyone.
Yeah,
everyone gets
everyone
paid.
is sponsored,
Yeah.
right? But then it wasn't.
Mm.
So he, I knew that your father couldn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. I only saw him, I think, drunk maybe 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But I just knew that he just couldn't handle it. And he just reminded me so much, of my father that he couldn't stop.
Yeah.
So we did everything we could. We went to rehab. We all went. Pop and I went to our own classes. And, that's how we dealt with it. We found out we were not alone. And I think that the 12 steps are a wonderful way to live,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it.
I mean, he's 30 years now,
Yes.
which is crazy.
Yes.
How was that, the meeting on Saturday? I missed it. I
It
wasn't
was
there.
great.
Yeah,
It was great.
that is nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think that your father has learned a lot. I always knew he was smart.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew that he was special, but he didn't know it.
Yeah, that's hard to see your son, your kid like that. But
Yeah.
they got through it.
One of the things that he did, I don't know if I told you this, but we sent him to nursery school a couple of days a week,
Mm-hmm.
and he was always very clean, very clean. If he was dirty from outside, he'd be in the shower, in the bath, always clean clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes to nursery school, and I go for my first teachers meeting, conference, and the nursery school teacher said to me, "Mrs. Cunningham, I hope that Billy is keeping his clothes as clean as you want them." I was like, what? He had told the teacher that he was not allowed to lie down on the floor. So everybody, all these other kids are on the floor.
Yeah,
and
sleeping.
he's sitting in a chair.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
That's a salesman in him.
Yeah, right? That's so funny.
Isn't that funny? But that's what he told them. I said, "Are
Yeah.
you kidding?" No, that's not true.
Yeah. Hey, he wants to be clean. Makes sense.
That's right.
Yeah, I like being clean too. I enjoy it. I guess you passed
He was
down.
always in the bathtub. Whenever he has a problem,
Mm-hmm.
that's the first place he goes,
The tub.
in the tub. Goes in the bathtub.
Yeah. I think he still likes taking baths.
Yeah.
Sorry to call you out.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in our family history, like the past, because I know it came up from the DNA tests, where we're from, really, and when we thought we were something else. So, do you want to go into that or no?
I don't know.
You don't? So what's the deal?
I honestly don't know. My father has disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even go back there.
Yeah.
So, everything that I thought I knew
Mm-hmm.
wasn't true.
That's weird. How did that make you feel?
You know, it's when I found out that my mother had been married before.
Did you know that growing up?
No, I was in my 30s or older, and confronted her. You know, confronted my mother. She said, "Well, you weren't the one that was adopted." And I said, "But you lie. You know, it's a lie. Everything's a lie." So I always wondered why my sister and I were so different, because we weren't even
from the same father.
No, just that we weren't the same. We didn't have the same father. But in the DNA, they tried to find him, and he's nowhere to be found.
Really?
So I don't know anything except what I thought I knew about him.
So that was your sister's dad?
Say that again?
So the guy that I'm kind of confused.
My mother had been married before, and she had my sister.
Okay.
And then he had rheumatic fever, I think, and he was sick. And I guess my mother divorced him, married my father, and then I was born.
Okay. So where did the Jewish come in?
The Jewish came in from my mother. She was Jewish, but never practiced it.
Okay.
You know, I, growing up, for some reason, always wanted to go to church.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, that's where I was led to. And my father would promise me a couple of times, not a lot, 2 times maybe, that he would take me to sunrise services.
Okay.
He never did.
What do you think that calling was to the church?
It was.
But what, do you think it was just God directing you in this way?
I never really thought about it. But, you know, I believe there's one God. And I believe that people worship God the way they choose to, whether it be Catholic or whether it be Jew or, you know, there's just different. But I believe there's one God. And my God was in church for some reason.
Yeah.
So when our kids, Leanne and Billy, got baptized, I got baptized with them.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has the church played a role in your life?
It played a huge role in my life. You know, when I was young, I used to teach nursery school. And I was guided by a woman that knew the Bible well, so I was covered.
That's nice.
And I just believe in God. I just believe in God has a plan.
My friend Kevin asked me yesterday, because he was talking about how he wants to get back going to church, and he was saying like why, like he feels like he should want to go to church and not forced, like he has to be good or something. What does like mass do for you? Because it does seem when we were kids, like we were forced to go.
Yes.
And then it's kind of that, you kind of hold that grudge against it. But because you go to mass every Sunday, so what do you feel like it does for you?
You mean why do I go?
Yeah, that's an easier way to say it.
Okay. It's a spiritual thing. You know, and I like to hear the minister speak. I feel comfortable being there. You know, I've gotten attached to different ministers, and the one I was really attached to this time has left. He went back to Indiana.
Oh, he's from Indiana too?
Well, actually, he's working in Indiana now as a pastor, but he's from Illinois.
Oh.
But the Midwest. Yeah.
That's nice.
And he was wonderful with us. You know, I still keep in touch with his wife.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, so he can get married?
Yes.
Because Catholic, you can't.
Right.
So.
In Protestant and Methodist, yes, you can.
I think it's so stupid why you can't get married.
I know.
It's just what. Well, yeah, I get it. You're married to God, and that's all you need. But it would still be nice to have a companion.
Yeah.
I think they should change that.
Maybe there wouldn't have been the problems that there were.
Yeah, that whole thing that gives Christianity such a bad name, because everyone's like, oh, because that's all you hear, and it happens so much too. It's terrible.
Terrible.
It's really terrible. But now they make you go through all this training and stuff. Even because I was a co-chaperone for Appalachia, or what's it called? Junior chaperone. They made me go to a class about like sexual assault, kind of, and it was just terrible to see. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
But everything's got the bad side to it. There's always.
But that's what sells the news.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
If it bleeds, it leads, and that stinks because that's what we want, and that's what social media and our phones are doing. Like everyone complains about how there's so much like bad stuff on the internet, but it shows you what you want to see. Like the algorithms that are in it. It wants its only goal is not to be good or bad. It's just to show you what you want and make you stay on the app longer. So like apps like Facebook and TikTok. I don't know if you're definitely not on TikTok. It's a new one. You don't need to worry about it. But like Facebook, it shows you what you read the most. So if you're into politics and screaming matches and other sides, well, you're going to get more of that to keep you on. Or if you're into the far right, you're going to get more of the far right. And if you're far left, you're going to get more of the far left.
Is that because they tell when you click on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They know what you click on, and yeah, they know what you're looking at. Like advertisers can tell too. They know every button you press, where you scroll, if you zoom, because that's how they make the money. Like platforms like Instagram and all these social medias make their money from advertisers. So the advertisers know exactly what you're looking at. They can listen to your phone. Like I was talking.
They can listen?
Yeah, they listen. It's weird. Yeah. When you give them access to your microphone, they listen.
What about like if you're buying something or something?
Oh, if you click on something on Amazon, you can even see it. Your recommendations or what pops up to you, it's based off the stuff you looked at before. So all of it is catered to you, because how it used to go was, someone's calling you.
Oh, I know the phones.
But how it used to go was back in the start of like TV and all this, magazines.
Oh, pop. I don't know.
It's okay. It'll stop ringing eventually.
Okay.
But at the start of like magazines and stuff, you couldn't cater to a specific audience. The closest you could do is say you wanted to target women or girls. You would put it in teen, I don't know what magazines. I don't read magazines.
Oh, I don't know.
But like in a girls magazine or Vogue,
right,
or something like that, because then you would put, a hairspray or makeup, because you wouldn't want to advertise that on ESPN or something.
Right.
So then as technology improved, you got better and better information of who the customer is. So then you could say, instead of putting this ad here that might get the audience I'm looking for, it's say, I know exactly what you want and I know exactly what to show you. And they make more money off that. So it's all a money thing. We're literally the product, because we buy their stuff and then they give the money, some of it, to these companies to get the information and data. Like Facebook is selling our information to third-party vendors.
Oh.
And Google is doing the same thing. So they can know what we want, so they can target us better, and we will buy their stuff, which is weird.
Well, you know, that it's interesting that you say that, because I had heard, the Dolan?
Yeah, the Dolan twins.
Okay, so they were one of the first, I guess.
Yeah, like Vine stars.
Yeah, they and they sell the product, and they
Mm-hmm.
got a following and everything else. I mean, it's crazy
Yeah.
how things, I mean, especially I think for young women, and that's my concern. You know, I think my older granddaughters, are pretty savvy, but
Yeah.
you know, I worry about the younger generation
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be validated,
Yeah.
that wants
The gratification.
the gratification. I mean, you know,
It's scary. It is really scary. And I think we are in the infancy of the internet and all this social media stuff. So I'm hoping with time we learn more about it and we could realize, hey, it has so many pros. It connects people. Like, it's great. I love seeing, you could even tell on Facebook, like, you're friends with people that you haven't seen in years and you could keep up what they're doing. And I have the same thing. I played hockey with a few kids 10 years ago. I'm friends with them on Instagram or Snapchat, and I see how they progressed and where they are now. And I could still reach out and be like, hey, how you doing? Which is great. Good job, social media. But then there also comes the other side with all the problems and the comparing yourself and all that. And we didn't realize that that was a thing because it's so new. It came out when I was in high school. Like, that's 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. That's really new. So I'm hoping as time goes on, we learn more about it and learn how to find like the healthy in between, because it's not going to be sustainable to keep going down this route.
no.
But
Don't you think with the pandemic it got
it made it worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
because even with our business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for me, I do office mostly, and you know, they've realized that you don't need an office. Our real estate office has been closed,
Really?
or it's closed.
So how's that been for you guys? So
Well,
it's all online now?
Pop likes to be there
Yeah,
because that's where the center of everything is.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know if it'll ever reopen. You know,
Yeah.
they're looking at that because the thing is you know, with all the excuse me.
The pink water. It is nice. Can you put it on this side?
This time,
Yeah. Thank you.
with all the social media
Mm-hmm.
and virtual things, there doesn't have to be an office.
No.
So, you know, I feel sorry for some of the landlords that I've dealt with because their buildings are vacant.
That's terrible. That's terrible. And goes back to what I was talking about, the virtual world. It is a virtual world, because then you won't even have to. You could just put on a headset, and you're with everyone. You're connected. So that's going to be really strange, because you're not going to need any business place. Why would you spend the expenses on all that when all you could do is just put on a head thing?
Yeah.
That's going to be strange. We're going into a weird world.
Don't worry about it, James.
Yeah, I'm not.
I won't either.
Yeah. It's just a lot, and it's going to change everything. It's probably going to come in the next like 10 years or something. Because they always say, what were you going to say?
No, I was just thinking because even when our kids grew up, there weren't anything.
Yeah.
So they had to find their own games.
Mm-hmm.
That's why probably the baseball games and the garage, they used to use the driveway and, to wiffle ball and all those games that they created themselves because there wasn't anything else to do.
Yeah. Have you seen the shift with technology? Because you really went from none to now, which is insane.
It's
how
insane.
far we've come. I was thinking on the car ride here, I was listening to like 80s music, and I'm like, oh, this is the best. Like, I wish I grew up in the 80s. And then I'm like, well, if I grew up in the 80s, I wouldn't be able to record and make this, I wouldn't be able to. So like,
That's
oh,
right.
I'd be out of work. I wouldn't have any passion projects. So it is It is nice, but yeah, how has it been watching it evolve? Because you guys have been staying tech savvy.
Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that especially Pop is much more adoptable.
His Bitmojis are hilarious. They're so funny. Well, I'm like, I don't know how he set this up, but I don't even know how to set this up, and he's doing it. So funny.
He loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, he does. You know, he loves that stuff. But I have a hard time.
Yeah.
And I think when computers first came into being, the word processor,
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was fairly new in the real estate world, and I was typing up this proposal or all this stuff, and it took me a long time.
On a
It must have
typewriter
been
or a computer?
on a word processor.
Was it on a computer though? Or
No,
what
I
is
guess I don't know if it's a computer. I guess the first computer,
Yeah.
but I pressed one button and I lost everything.
Oh my gosh.
One button.
Yeah.
So now I'm like,
Yeah,
I
scared.
can't press this button. But I'm not as, I'm more of a communicative person than I am a computer person.
Yeah.
I'd rather call somebody up and talk to them on the phone than I would text them or
Yeah.
email them.
The world's adapting quickly, and it's hard to stay with it. I'm even struggling with all the new stuff coming out. I don't understand it. I'm like, I think I could figure it out if I put the time into it, but I'm just like this new cryptocurrency stuff. My friend sends me articles. Alex D'Alessandro, my good buddy from preschool and on. But he sends me stuff. I'm like, I don't get this. I believe him because he's a smart kid, but I don't get it. I don't get it. And I think we will come to a time where we don't use cash anymore, and we do go to that.
Wow.
And I don't know. It's going to be strange.
Well, look at what's happened to our environment.
Yeah, we're not doing
I
too
mean,
great
who
with it.
knew all those years ago with this global warming?
Did
and
you ever hear
all that
anything
other
about
stuff?
that growing up?
No,
We really kicked it up with all these factories, and
No.
we're kind of just killing it.
never thought of it.
Yeah. It's not great. To especially hear the UN say we're past the point of saving it. We need to remove carbon from the
I know.
atmosphere. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's weird. And to think, even for me to have kids, it's like, well, do I even want to bring people into this, into the mess that we're doing? That's a long way down the road, hopefully. But we'll see. We'll see. But it's a fear my generation has. Like, a lot of my friends are like, I don't even know if I want to have kids. Like, I don't want to bring them into what's going on. Because it's not getting better right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know I have hope that it will. I'm hoping my aged people, because we understand what's been going on, and it all comes down to people just want to make money, and they don't care about the repercussions. I'm hoping that changes, our perspectives shift, because if we could focus on the well-being of the environment, the well-being of people, well, if that's your foundation, everything else will fall into place. It's like only putting God in the center. If God is in the center, everything else will fall. But when we have a false idol, like money and greed, obviously nothing's going to work.
Yeah. Well.
And he tried to teach us that. I love the story of in Egypt, when God does the 7 plagues or whatever, to make just a reference at the false gods that they were praying to, like Ra, the sun god, right? He's a sun god or something. And then he made the frogs run in the Nile, but each one represented a different idol that they worshipped. And he's like, no. Like me, put me in the middle. But we see, like, the 7 deadly sins are pretty pretty
Well,
spot
people
on.
worship different things.
Yeah.
People worship clothes.
But
People worship, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That
fame.
that identifies, you know. I mean, when I was growing up, I think it was more so then, because when I was growing up, you know, when we went to church, you had to be dressed up. But that was sort of like a respect too.
Yeah.
You know, now, I mean, like we went out to dinner to the Capitol Grill, okay, on our anniversary. And the food was excellent, excellent. But truthfully, I thought, I mean, we were dressed, you know. I wore one of my little dresses. I was all set to go. And to see how people were dressed, it was like...
How are they dressed? Up or down?
Down.
Really?
Oh, not at all up. I think Pop was one of the few with the jacket. So, you know, things change, and you've got to go with the flow of the change, but there's still got to be a happy medium.
Yeah, I agree. The balance seems to be a reoccurring theme I've been finding out, especially with all these podcasts I've been doing. Just the balance. It's always the balance, which is nice. It's the middle.
Yes.
But I was in the Hamptons this weekend. Talk about people worshiping different things that probably aren't the best things to worship. The houses. I can't imagine. If you want to spend your money on that, go for it. But we went to this, like, the family I was with were so nice. Like, they're the best. I love them. But the other people there were like, we feel so out of place. Like, everyone was just, excuse my French, but bitches. Like, everyone was just so stuck up, and they thought they were better than everyone else. They're wearing, like, their designer clothes and their Rolexes. I'm like, you guys aren't happy. Like, this is all so fake because they're worshiping this materialistic things. I'm like, you're never going to find happiness in that. But they just keep going on, and they think they literally separate themselves from the rest of the world. It was really weird to see, because then you look even in New Jersey or New York, and people are struggling to, like, get by, and then you go there where everyone's dappered up and tan. This one guy was so old and wrinkled. He had tan lines. He had one white strip under his brown boobies. He was like an old man, but it was really funny to see because he was in the sun so much, and I guess his tits were hanging down over his. So there was one white thing. It was kind of funny, but that doesn't seem like a good life. I don't think I'd want to live like that.
You know, it's interesting because that you mentioned the Hamptons. Even in New Jersey, Livingston is one. You know, Livingston. The people in Livingston, the kids go away for the whole summer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And, you know, it is the designer this, the designer that, the houses, the whatever. You know, it's different.
Yeah, it is.
It's very different. Even Mendham,
Yeah.
Morristown.
Oh, yeah. I went to Morristown Bear. Like, come on, I saw this every day.
The preppy.
Yeah, very preppy.
Yes.
And I don't think it's a problem if you have money to spend it, but it doesn't seem like they're spending it for joy or anything. It's like spending it to show you that I have it.
I'm accepted.
Yeah.
I'm accepted.
It's like,
I made it.
Look at this. Look at me. I'm Gucci down to the sock.
Yes.
That doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah.
But to each their own, I guess.
I know. But, you know, that's just the way life is, I guess. You know, and I think that different people, that's why I think that we've surrounded ourselves with people that are similar to us, with the same likes, the same
values,
volunteerism, the same community, not so much community, but, you know, all of my friends, I think, have served some way. You know, I mean, I didn't tell you I was on the Juvenile Conference Committee.
Were you?
Yes.
How was that?
Oh, an eye-opener.
Yeah. You must have saw some very misguided people.
We saw first offenders, and that I remember this was with pot, something else. Somebody said something. It was, I don't remember whether it was a kid or something, but it was very embarrassing to me because I had no clue what it was. And I said, "Oh, you get all that for a nickel?" Or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like one of the people on the committee gave me a kick. Told me to just keep quiet.
Yeah.
But, you know, my kids were nervous that some of their friends would be coming before the committee.
And you'd be sitting there.
And I'd be sitting there. Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But that is, it's sad to see, because we're talking about it's your childhood that shapes you. And to see, like, people that were beaten or mistreated as kids, it's like, sometimes makes you think, do they really have a choice in what they're doing? And that's the only thing they know.
Yeah.
It's sad.
You know, we grew, when we lived in Parsippany, people lived next door to us. He was a pilot. His wife was an alcoholic. But anyway, they had 2 kids. And Leanne was very friendly with the daughter. And the daughter used to love to come to our house. You know, she'd be over there all the time. And I remember, and this bothered me. This brings me back to Est. This bothered me when she said it, because the woman was drunk one day, and I was out there with the kids or something, and I had come in, and she came over, and she said to me, "You'll get yours. You think you're so big." I was president of PTA at the time. President of PTA, big shot in the community, great husband, kids. You'll get yours.
It's kind of messed up to say.
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, why is she saying this to me? And I realized that I would always try to be nice to her. And what I realized after I did, you know, all the transformation work, I think what I could have done is just ignore her.
Really?
And then it would have changed the whole.
Why is that? I feel like being nice is probably a better way to do it.
Because if I ignored her, I wouldn't feed on what she was saying. You know, I was trying to be nice to her, trying to.
Yeah. So sometimes it's better just to leave it alone.
Just leave it alone.
That's strange.
You don't have to prove anything.
No.
You know, I was just, I guess, trying to prove to her that I was really a nice person.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you do good every day, then you'll have a good life. Right?
That's what I thought.
I think that makes sense. How could you have a bad life if you always do what makes you happy and what's right? I feel like that's the path that we're supposed to be taking.
Yeah.
Not the other one.
You know, it's funny because your father would say to me, "Mom, you think everybody's nice."
Yeah, not everyone's nice. Not everyone's nice.
I know.
But I think people can be. It's just, it's really just different. I really bring it back to the childhood. I think it's so important. And I think I think more people need to go to forums. I think it would be a lot happier and kinder
And
place.
do volunteer work.
Oh, yeah.
And do your church work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's very important. That sticks with you forever.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, because I never had it,
Mm-hmm.
I would always want to do more. Always do it.
Yeah. How did volunteer work help for you, or like make you feel? Because it does make you feel good. It does. But it is so nice to help another person. Like going down to Kentucky is just the best. Like it's a highlight of my trip. And me and Gregory were talking about on our trip, because it was his 4th time too. We're like, it just makes your summer better. Like it makes your year better. And the fact that we could go back again.
Yes.
And hopefully we can go back again next year.
Yes.
It makes you feel good. It's the highlight. It's
Yeah.
the highlight.
It is.
I love it. But so where can people, what do you recommend for people if they can't afford the forum? Because it's kind of expensive. You know, like how could you help yourself if you're struggling with your family or alcoholism or all these other problems? Like, where do you find help?
Well, I think there's a lot of volunteer organizations now. And I think even with the Olympics, when, with the mental, with the mental illness and, the stress and everything, I think it's just much more prevalent now. So if you want it, I think you can find it.
That's good. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about anything else before we finish off?
No? I'm good.
All right. Well, this has been fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too. Peace.
Peace.